David Bay here from MuscularDevelopment.com. We are in Texas, wrapping things up from day 2 of the IFBB Texas Pro and Wings of Strength Phoenix Rising World Championships for our women's bodybuilding. We're going to start things off with our men. Coming into the show, Steve Cuoco, kind of the hands-down favorite. Steve was looking to punch that ticket to the Mr. Olympia, although he already was set on points. We know he wanted to walk away with the win. Steve left that window open a little bit, coming in off his best, and Johnny Jackson 100% at his best. We've seen him not only all year, but probably the best we've seen Johnny in a few years. Johnny walking away with that first place spot. Johnny also was good on points getting to the Olympia, but we know as a competitor, Johnny wanted to get there with a win and a full head of steam. That he did. Our third place finisher, Robert Petro. Robert came in really good here. Very full, very conditioned. Not quite the razor sharp conditioning we've seen him before in the past, but he was still in really good shape. The big thing for Robert this weekend here in Texas was his color. He had some major problems with it in Tampa, able to polish it up a little bit for Sacramento, and really nailed it this weekend here in Texas. In fact, there was some buzz around the hotel, this Grand Hyatt that Tim Gardner scheduled. This place in Texas is beautiful. The buzz here was that Robert might have been even in second place after prejudging. Steve came in a little bit better tonight, notably from the front. Steve's back was a little bit further behind. That being said, this is Steve's first show, I believe, working with nutritionist Neil Hill. He switched from Hani to Neil. And Neil's a good guy. I'm sure Neil will have Steve dialed in for the Olympia. Once again, Steve is good on points. Now, rounding out our top 5, we had Micah Lockett in 4th place, Stefan Havlik in 5th. Stefan, really strong showing in Tampa and in Sacramento. Looked good here this weekend as well, but was probably just a little bit off, both conditioning and color-wise, the best that we've seen him before. So, there's your top 5. Some other notable placings here. We didn't find out who's outside the top 5, so I shouldn't say placings, but some of the other good showings. Paulo Almeida. Paulo is one of those guys, carries a lot of size, huge arms, was a little bit off in Vancouver, a little bit better in Tampa, and once again, a little bit better here in Texas, I should say San Antonio. This place is crazy. We got people walking all over. But anyhow, Paulo looked really good, shows a lot of signs of a lot of potential. Speaking of potential, we have Kevin Jordan and Ken Jackson. Great aesthetics, great physiques. Both of those guys need to up the size just a little bit, but more so focus on their conditioning, and I'm sure they will be doing well very soon. Finally, Henri Pierre, one of the best aesthetics that we've seen on an IFBB stage in a long time. Tall guy, needs to fill out his frame, but I'm sure we'll see Henry do that sometime in the near future. He's a hardworking guy, fan favorite, and look for big things from him. Now, the other big event we had here in San Antonio, obviously the Phoenix Rising Women's World Bodybuilding Championships, brought to you by Wings of Strength. But before we get into talking about that show, I am going to bring on very special guest and 8-time Miss Olympia, Lenda Murray. Lenda, first off, thanks for joining me for this video for Muscular Development. You know, a little air got taken out of the world of women's bodybuilding when they announced it wasn't going to be at the Olympia. Tim Gardner and Wings of Strength, big players in all aspects of the sport, including women's bodybuilding. It was big news when they announced that they were going to have a World Championships here in Texas.
Yeah, it's very big news, and especially being that this is probably the largest purse received by female bodybuilders. $115,000 in cash and prizes, $65,000 valued Jeep that the winner drove home in today, will drive home in today.
Yeah, so not only did we still have a World Championships per se for the women, but we also saw bigger prize money for not only the winners, but everybody else than we've ever seen before. And once again, a $65,000 tricked out Jeep. You guys saw the pictures I posted of that thing on Muscular Development. Now let's get into the show here. After prejudging, it really looked like it was a two-girl race between Hele Trevino and Margie Martin. But it was definitely a case of apples and oranges. We've seen this before in bodybuilding numerous times. Hele, I don't want to say she was more muscular, but definitely better conditioned than Margie. But Margie brought better conditioning than we've seen before and a little bit better aesthetics. How did you see it at prejudging this morning?
Yeah, I agree. Hele was in great shape. She was in phenomenal shape. And in the case of Margie she has incredible symmetry. She's a beautiful structure. And I think, too, also, they got to see Margie improve. I think this is her third show. And so she improved with each show, her conditioning, but she wasn't as hard and as tight as Helly. And also, Helly, if you're looking at her picture package, it is a little bit different. She brought down some of the level of her muscularity. Like, what I noticed, I think where Margie really got her was from the rear. From the rear, the density of her back. Margie had her more maturity in her back development. Versus where you could really see a major difference in regards to comparing Helly versus Margie.
Yeah, no, we all say shows are won from the back in bodybuilding, and from the back it was definitely interesting looking at these two, because we talk so much about hamstrings and striated glutes in bodybuilding. It's become almost an obsession when we talk conditioning, and Helly definitely had Margie in that hamstring and glute conditioning area, but Margie's V-taper and her overall mass and her back definitely set her apart. So once again, shows one from the back, but all things considered, again, it did look like Margie had her there.
Yeah, Margie had her from the back, but when you looked at Helly's lower body, which normally, especially with women, when we turn to the rear, most of the time you're not looking at her back, you're looking at her glutes, because that's a really, serious way of just telling who's in shape.
It's difficult for women to get those really tight.
It's very difficult. And Helly, she was definitely the tightest in the rear. And when I talked to Margie, she knew and she knows that that's one of her major issues. So I think that the judges looked and they got to see a transformation and saw that she was tighter, that she had improved. And so at the end of the day, they went to Margie.
All right, now, rounding out the top five, we had some familiar faces. Two of your top five at last year's Olympia, Alana Shipp placing fourth this year, and Deb Leszewski placing fifth. No, yeah, Alana got fifth, Deb got fourth, Yexeni got third. Yexeni looked good, not quite where she was at when she was winning the Miss Internationals, and her win at Miss Olympia must have been almost 8 or 10 years ago. Well, longer than 10 years ago, because Iris had the reins for a while.
Absolutely, yeah, Yaxani's been around a long time, and it shows that they brought in some big names. Yaxani, she showed up because, and Debbie. So it was really nice too, I think, especially just the fact that they thought that this was it for them, that there would be no show for them to compete in, and Wings of Strength provided this show for them. But yeah, Debbie was in great shape. I know Debbie's been working with Charles Glass. She was really excited about her physique and how she's changing. She really did bring in, and her shape was better. I love what she did with her physique and what Charles Glass has done. So she did look great. Hang in there, Debbie. Keep training hard. Keep working, because you are fabulous from head to toe.
All right. Now, one of the other big things people are talking about, not only on the muscular development boards, kind of all over the internet, is some of the what-ifs. Iris Kyle retiring after 10 years reign as a Miss Olympia. It's one of those things where it's got to be at least a little bit hard for Iris, knowing the prize package, the Jeep, $65,000. In my opinion, humbly, is that had Iris shown up this year, probably would have been 11 in a row. I mean, you're as good of an expert as anybody else in women's bodybuilding. Would Iris have probably been able to take an 11th victory here?
Well, you know what? Well, definitely, I mean, her physique. I mean, the one thing with Iris is that Iris is... that girl, she comes in shape every single time. She is no joke. It was like no joke. So no question that she would have come in and just been incredible. But I do believe this, knowing the sport as I do, and I got to see this being Miss Olympia and retiring and coming back. A lot of times the judges, they want to just see a change or see a shift. She would have had to come back in absolutely great shape, which we know she would have. But sometimes they said, we just want to change. We want to see, you said you were going to retire. I've seen them do it to the men. I saw it happen to Ronnie Coleman. He came back. He wasn't in great shape, but they gave him like I think 3rd place or something. They said, "Look, dude, like we said, like okay, you said you were retiring. Okay, like move on. Like let's give somebody else a chance."
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, we can talk hypotheticals and what ifs all weekend long, but the one thing we do know, Margie Martin, your new Wings of Strength, Phoenix Rising world champion bodybuilder for the women, wrapping up a fantastic weekend. Once again, thank you, Lenda, very much for taking the time to do this interview for me. As all the guys know on Muscular Development from some of my comments over the weekend, I am a huge fan of Lenda Murray, looking absolutely fantastic, every bit as good as her days on stage. So once again, guys, this is David Bay with 8-time Miss Olympia Lenda Murray for MuscularDevelopment.com from the Texas Pro and the Wings of Strength Phoenix Rising Women's World Bodybuilding Championships for MuscularDevelopment.com.